Welcome to RP Revenge.
The email landed in my inbox at 9:12 a.m., just as I was stirring sugar into a lukewarm cup of coffee that already tasted like exhaustion. The subject line, compensation updates for FI 2025, didn't mean much at first. It was just another bland company memo in a place that had long stopped surprising me. But the moment I scrolled to the bottom, the spoon slipped from my fingers and clattered against the mug. New hires at the senior project lead level will start at a base salary of $163,000. My breath caught. I blinked at the screen, waiting for my brain to correct what my eyes were seeing. My salary, after 10 years in this gray-walled corporate prison, was a flat $100,000. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The mug tipped, shattering against the tiled floor. Coffee splattered across my shoes, warm and sticky. The crash drew a few heads around me. "Everything okay, Maya?" It was Nathan. New guy. One of the very newcomers that email was about. He was holding a fancy latte, the kind with foam art, looking down at me with concern, and a faint, unearned confidence. "Yeah," I muttered, forcing a shaky smile. "Just spilled." He handed me a napkin, oblivious. "Big day ahead. Daniel said the merger files are all in your hands, right?" Of course Daniel said that. Of course it was me holding it all together. "Yep," I said tightly. "They're safe." When he walked away, I stared at my monitor, the HR memo glowing like a taunt. 10 years of skipped lunches, sacrificed weekends, migraines disguised as dedication, and they thought I'd just keep smiling? The number, $63,000, repeated in my head like a curse. I opened my HR portal. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they were adjusting pay scales by department. But no, the update applied company-wide. I scrolled through the fine print, and each word pressed heavier against my chest. They were paying the people I trained more than me. By the time the day ended, I was just staring at the blinking cursor on a half-written resignation letter. The office around me emptied. Just the hum of fluorescent lights, the faint whoosh of the AC, and the lonely rhythm of a life being quietly undervalued. Daniel's words from last Christmas party echoed in my head. "Your family here, Maya. We'll make it right next cycle." The next cycle had come and gone. So had my patience. I deleted the letter. I wasn't leaving empty-handed. They'd taken my loyalty for granted, my silence for consent. If they wanted to see what 10 years of quiet competence could do when pushed too far, they would. That night, sleep didn't come. I lay awake, the city lights cutting thin stripes across my ceiling, thinking about every lie wrapped in corporate niceties. Every, "we'll revisit next quarter." Every, "we value your contribution." And then something strange. I went back to that email, looked again at the attachment HR had sent. A mistake probably, because it wasn't just a summary. It was an internal spreadsheet showing compensation tiers across the company. Every role, every name. That's when I saw it. Nathan's salary, $163,000. My salary, $100,000. And under performance notes, exceptional contribution potential, data model optimization authored by team lead, Nathan, during pilot stage. My chest went tight. That project, that optimization, that was mine. Every line of it. I'd spent 3 weeks building that model. Daniel had told me he'd handle the submission. He hadn't submitted it under my name. The betrayal hit harder than I expected. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about trust. The quiet kind that makes you stay late without being asked. The kind that makes you protect people like Daniel when others complain. He'd smiled in my face, told me I was his right hand, and then used that same hand to erase me. By the time the sun rose, something inside me had crystallized. I was done being the quiet one. Friday came faster than I thought. The office buzzed with energy. The company's biggest merger presentation was set for Monday. A deal worth millions. The analytics behind it. Every forecast, every number, every insight that made the company look golden. And Daniel, he was the one presenting it. To the board, to investors, to the press. He'd asked me for the final files by end of day. His tone was casual, like Betrayal was just another email on his to-do list. "Need your magic, Maya," he said, leaning against my cubicle. "You're my secret weapon, you know that?" I smiled faintly. Of course. I spent the entire afternoon crafting 2 versions of the report. One real, flawless, locked behind my private drive. And one replica, with a single surgical change buried deep in the model. Just a small inversion in the predictive function. It wouldn't crash. It wouldn't break. But a few hours after the presentation, when the system recalculated in real time, the projections would flip. A perfect storm of numbers that would eat his credibility alive. When I was done, I uploaded the altered version to the shared folder and sent Daniel a short message. "All files finalized. Enjoy your weekend, Daniel." He replied almost instantly. "You're a lifesaver, Maya. Drinks on me next week, winking face." I stared at that winking emoji for a long time. Then I closed my laptop. It was 5:48 p.m. For the first time in years I left on time. Monday morning felt unnervingly calm. The air in the conference room hummed with anticipation, the kind that makes your skin prickle before a thunderstorm. I stood near the back wall, notebook in hand, pretending to blend in with the crowd of executives and investors. Daniel was center stage, crisp suit, practiced grin, ready to bask in the spotlight I had built for him. "Thank you all for joining us," he began, his voice polished, confident. "Today, I'm proud to share the data that proves our merger will deliver exponential growth." He clicked to the first slide. My design. My analysis. Applause. Mail. Cameras flashing. I watched him glide through the first dozen slides, owning every metric, every forecast. It was like watching a thief narrate his own robbery, with flair. My hands were steady. My pulse not so much. When he reached slide 38, I drew in a slow breath. I knew what came next. A flicker appeared in the chart animation, so subtle that only I noticed it first. The projected profit curve dipped, almost imperceptibly. Then the next slide updated, and the red began to spread. Margins. Negative. Market reach shrinking. Confidence score collapsing. Daniel's words stuttered mid-sentence. He tried to recover, clicked back, forward, then back again. The room fell quiet. The CFO leaned forward. "Daniel," she said, her tone sharp, "are these forecasts live?" He swallowed. "They're, dynamic. Should be reflecting the latest." "Then why are the projections showing a 40% decline?" Every pair of eyes in that room turned to him. I watched a bead of sweat roll down his temple. His once slick charm cracking under the weight of confusion. He looked at me then. Desperate. "Maya," he said, forcing a laugh. "Can you double-check the data set?" I tilted my head, smiling just enough to make him nervous. "That's not my department anymore, Daniel." The silence was delicious. The lead investor stood up, frowning. "You said these were verified. You assured us this model was sound." Daniel's face drained of color. It is. I mean, it was. But the data kept updating. Numbers cascading down the screen, every new projection contradicting the last. His voice cracked trying to explain it away. Within minutes, the CFO ended the presentation. "We'll reconvene privately," she said coldly. "Daniel, step outside with me." He glanced at me again, eyes wide with betrayal. The irony of that almost made me laugh. Then he followed her out. I waited a beat, then closed my notebook and slipped quietly from the room. By noon, the entire office was vibrating with whispers. Daniel's access to the company drive had been suspended. Staff rushed between cubicles. HR was in damage control mode. I stayed silent, focused, composed. Around 2, an HR representative appeared at my desk. "Maya, could we speak in private?" "Course." We met in a small glass office that still smelled faintly of disinfectant and anxiety. The HR lead tried for a reassuring smile that didn't reach her eyes. We, understand you were closely involved with the merger data, she said. He nodded. I developed the original framework. She exhaled. We think the files Daniel used may have been altered. Would you be able to recover the clean version? I leaned back in my chair, letting the weight of her words settle. I can, I said calmly. But I'd need access reinstated, and written assurance that my role will be correctly credited moving forward, along with a salary that reflects current market standards. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. And, what figure do you have in mind? Smiled. $165,000. It was quiet for a long time after that. Just the low hum of the air conditioner and the faint tapping of her pen. By 6 p.m., an email pinged my inbox. New offer letter. Director of Strategic Data Operations. Base salary. $165,000. Full credit. Merger Analytics authored by Maya Khan. I read it twice before signing. Slowly. Steadily. Then I shut my laptop, gathered my things, and walked out into the night air. The city lights shimmered against the glass towers like fragments of something newly broken, newly made. For the first time in a decade I felt weightless. Few days later Nathan stopped by my new office. He looked uneasy, his usual confidence dimmed. I heard about Daniel, he said quietly. I didn't know what he'd done with your work. I studied him for a long moment. He seemed sincere, but sincerity in this place was always slippery. I believe you, I said finally. But remember something, Nathan. Loyalty here has a shelf life. Don't sell yours too cheap. He nodded, guilt softening his features. You really turned it around, huh? I smiled faintly. No, I just evened the score. When he left, I turned back to the window. The skyline shimmered below. Chaotic, beautiful, alive. Every decision, every betrayal, every quiet hour I'd endured, it had all led here. They had offered Newcomers $63,000 more. But they forgot that I was worth more than any of them could calculate. And this time I made sure they paid exactly what I was owed.